Hello, here we are again with our fun bi-weekly podcast of fiction in real life. We have with us today Heather B. Moore, Jennifer Moore, Julie Daines, and myself, Jen Geigle Johnson. And we are thrilled that we could invite and include today our fun friend and author extraordinaire, Rebecca Connolly. So we as our giveaway today are offering her brand new launched book called Under the Cover of Mercy. Yes. Look at that beautiful cover with the poppies and Edith Cavil. It is a stunning book inside and out, and we're offering it to one lucky winner who comments on any of our platforms. So we have all of our Facebooks are currently showing this video live, and any comments or help in spreading the word, like Lori already sent us love and hearts. Thank you. So we will be counting those comments and choose one lucky winner to get an early copy because it just launched like yesterday, right, Rebecca?
Yeah, just yesterday.
So you can your opportunity to win Under the Cover of Mercy. We are also thrilled because Rebecca, you are in a special location. Will you tell us where you are right now?
I am in London, England.
That's so cool. So she's tuning in from her flat of a month, right? You're staying there a whole big long time.
Mm-hmm. Yep, this is my my place. You can see my fridge and my washer in the camera right there. That's what that is. That's the fridge, the little mini fridge. That's the washer, and it's the dryer. The drying function does not work as well as the washing function.
It's all
we are familiar with that.
This
I was just thinking the other day, I'm sorry, this is so off topic, but I was just thinking the other day how when we were in York, my pants got stuck in the washing machine for like a day and a half.
Yeah. Because every time you couldn't just put them in and dry them. It had to go through the whole cycle. It had to wash them again and then dry them.
That's funny.
There is a dry only cycle, but it takes, I am not kidding, 4 hours.
Wow.
Like, it is just as long to hang them around this place. So you should see my place on, well, laundry day is like 3 days a week because there's no laundry now because I just got back from Brussels.
Which is another beautiful story. I wish we could talk about all of your adventures because in Brussels, she was celebrating the launch of her book. So stay tuned to see if you can win that book. But the reason we invited Rebecca here today is partly to celebrate her launch, but mostly because the story of the Titanic and the boat that rescued that ship is a beautiful example of fiction in real life. There's so many parts to that story, so many characters involved, so many little quirks and tips that Rebecca has spent hours researching, and we knew she could share some of that with us today and blow our minds because it's just a beautiful story, a tragic story, but so much infused into it all at once. So we're thrilled. There it is. Her book, A Brilliant Night of Stars and Ice, is what introduced me to the rescuers of the Titanic. I myself had never given too much thought to the wonderful people who actually saved the lives of those who did not die on that boat. And I was thrilled that Rebecca introduced that all to me through her book and just through a lot of stuff she's just kind of told me over the years. So we want to hear some of her stories today, and we thought we would ask Rebecca, why don't you share a couple of them, and then we'll see where we are from there. Stuff that you found through your research that you think, we would all just be intrigued by.
All right. Well, I have a couple of stories, and we can decide if this is something that deserves its own book or not, and then we can talk about some of the real events and the fact that they're real, but if you heard them, would you believe them, sort of thing. Anyway. Perfect. Okay, so the first one is on the Titanic. There were 3 guys that were wildly known as card sharps. Now, you guys know a lot. Can you tell us what a card sharp is?
It's like a sharp or shark.
Is it like technically sharp, but I've heard shark as well.
Is it like a hustler, like a card hustler guy? Is that what it is?
Like, wouldn't they like go on a ship under an assumed name because they became notorious for basically cheating, but finding ways to win, maybe not quite legally. And so they would go on these ships with a lot of wealthy people, and they would gamble their way into winning lots of money.
Exactly. So on the Titanic, there were 3 that at the time were fairly notorious, traveling under assumed names. There was even a warning put out that there were suspected criminals on board.
What? Oh my word.
And all 3 of them survived.
What? Those are the ones who should have gone down.
Even helped other people get into a lifeboat or something, but all 3 of them survived. Is that a believe it or not or what?
Wow.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Okay, so Tia says she says someone who cheats to win at cards but tries to pretend they aren't any good. So they're like a hustler in a huge way like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
So all 3 of the card sharps survived the Titanic.
Wow. Interesting. Okay, but kind of cool. Were they friends with each other? Do we know do we know anything else about it?
That would require a whole wing of research that I have not done. There were rumors that some of the more famous hustlers and card sharps at the time were on board, but it was actually just 3 of your average but still excellent card sharps that were on there, not the famed card sharps. I don't even know any of their names. But
so did they went because they knew there would be a lot of rich people there and they were really good at poker or whatever?
Luxury liner, amazing people who dropped a ton of money on the ship, period. But it could have been that they just wanted the experience and they wanted to get money from these people. Maybe they just wanted to get to America. Maybe one of them was Jack Dawson. I don't know. But all 3 of them survived the disaster to steal fortunes another day.
All right, interesting. Wow. Okay.
All right, I don't know. I would book it. I don't know if we're doing this, but I would book it, and then later, after, they would all find a comeuppance, some sort of demise that they deserved.
I would book it, but have one of them kind of a redemption story. He gets in that situation of how some of the people kind of sneaked on the boats. Maybe that would happen, and then I don't know. There'd be something in there. But I think it is a fascinating side story.
Yeah.
Yeah, I book it. It's really cool. And I'm kind of a guitar hero sharp. I do that. I've done that with my kids' friends when they were younger, and I'd be like, "Oh, hey, can I play with you guys?" And they're like, "Oh, your mom wants to play," and I'm really good. And they so.
Okay, this is so fun that we know this about you now, Jennifer. Next time we're together, this is what we're doing. We're doing Guitar Hero. I think I'd book it. When Heather was talking, I got a good idea. What if we pretended one of them was a woman and she was kind of forced into it, working for this guy, and would you know what I mean, trapped in this situation, and we could tell her story, and that'd be super fun. Okay, so all right, we got it. We got
fun story. And that's the thing with historical fiction. You can be as true to it as you want.
True. Okay, tell us another one. What do you got for us, Rebecca?
So the next one is not as entertaining, but the more I think about it, the more I'm thinking the original Homeward Bound, from the 90s. And that is, there were 12 dogs on board Titanic.
What?
I did not know that.
3 of them survived.
Oh, that's the worst story.
But I was thinking, what if we did it from the point of view of the animals, and we're not going to show the ones that didn't make it, but we focus on the 3 that do, and we make it Homeward Bound Titanic version.
Oh,
that would be cute. Kind of just a kid's chapter book, maybe, so they can learn history.
Yeah, I was thinking that same thing, like a little kid's story of something.
Yeah, let's not focus on the other ones that didn't make it. Let's focus on these 3.
Right, yeah.
And turn them into a hero story for kids to learn about the Titanic without having to think about the deaths involved in Titanic.
Oh, gosh.
I have so many questions about this, but I think some of them are best left unanswered on our particular podcast.
Yeah.
But that was really awesome. Okay, so what are we all thinking? Are we booking that or not? We like this booking idea? Heather, what do you think?
I would not book. I would not I think it's a great story idea, but I personally wouldn't write it. So that's why I'd say I wouldn't book it, but I think someone else should do it.
For sure. Okay, what about you, Jennifer?
No way. Dogs dying is like my nightmare. But also, I don't write kids' books. I would read it though, if it had, I love dogs.
And Julie Daines.
Well, again, if I wrote kids' stories, I would book it because I really think that that's kind of a clever idea to write the story from the dog's point of view, and maybe we could embellish a little bit, and one of the dogs helps lead a kid to the safety of the lifeboat, and we just don't really focus on the fact that the other people are drowning in the ice cold water,
Yeah.
Geez.
These dogs were probably the dogs of foofy first class ladies who
right.
had
There's like some Pomeranian, but they could still
it's a Pomeranian in the arms of a woman who is not sitting next to anyone in the lifeboat.
Yeah.
Oh, and one of the dog characters is a stowaway dog.
Yes.
Oh, for sure.
The rough and
Good
tumble
one.
dog from the London streets. Yep.
This just became Lady and the Tramp Titanic version.
And some dog has to give his life for a passenger. It's the saddest thing.
Amanda says there's a picture book about Titanic cat, the ship's cat with kittens.
Oh, there were kittens. Oh my gosh.
That sounds cute. A picture book. That sounds really cute.
Lori says you can have the dogs take down the card sharps.
The Pomeranians.
No, we have to do Scotty dogs with accents.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
That's funny.
This could be a whole entire series, I think.
Yeah, this is great. I love it. Okay. So also, I'm just curious. This sounds like a good moment to ask this question. You told us that there was the most random fact you'd ever heard, and it related to the Titanic. Can you tell us what that random fact is?
Mm-hmm. The Titanic boasted a lot of firsts. One of those firsts is it is the first steamer to have a full-length heated pool on board.
Really?
Wow.
I did not know that.
The Titanic had a pool and it was heated.
How did they heat it?
It was like the first ship to have a.
That's crazy. I did not know that.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you're right. That's the most random thing I've ever
It's the most random thing ever. Like, first of all, I mean, we all know that pools are on cruise ships, but Titanic had a pool?
That's a long time ago. Yeah.
I think the St. Mary has a pool, right? Am I remembering that right? I mean, it's obviously not as old as Titanic, but
probably.
Yeah, but Jennifer is also a ship expert, so it's kind of interesting that
not this kind of ship, though.
Well, true. Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's so awesome. Okay. So I remember you going to the museum with us. Heather and I and you were in the Las Vegas exhibit of the Titanic, and I remember the emotion you felt there, and I remember even you quoting some lines from this book to me way back in the very beginning. And I know there's a lot of emotion involved for you regarding the captain of the Carpathia and all that. Mm-hmm. I'm putting you on the spot here, but can you share kind of something that was powerful for you? I mean, emotionally, what meant a lot that you discovered about the Carpathia or this captain or the rescue that you would want to share with us as kind of your final thing about the book?
Sure.
There he is.
That's Captain Rostron, who actually, after all of the Titanic stuff and a few years later, he actually went on to become a Commodore in the Cunard line. So, but one of the things that I loved most in my research was finding that when the message came to Captain Rostron from his first officer and the radio guy, Harold Cottam, that Titanic was in distress and needed help, he was in bed. Captain Rostron was in bed. And the first thing he says is, turn the ship around. He didn't ask for clarification. He didn't say what. He didn't say, are you crazy? It's unsinkable or anything like that. He said, turn the ship around. And then he asked, are you sure? And he said, yes. And he said, what are the coordinates? And immediately plotted a course. He was still in his pajamas and he was plotting a course and saying, tell them 4 hours. And then he came up with a plan, and there was no question for him about what to do. And they were going on a much safer course at that time of year. It was a southerly route, so it wasn't going to hit any ice or have any issues. And he was turning his older, not fancy ship and going right into danger, where the most impressive ship of all time at that time had struck an iceberg and was sinking, and he was racing towards it. And there was no question. So there were so many amazing things that I discovered about him, but that was the first that made me just go, holy crap. He was just amazing.
The words "for such a time as this" come to mind. You know, he had to have been the guy planted there for a reason. You know, I don't know many people that would have responded just in the same way. Kind of one of those hero type guys that it was his role, his job, kind of meant to be, it feels like. Very, very, very impressive. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Did you have another story that I neglected to ask you about?
There is one more snippet that we could roll with.
Let's do it. Tell us the last one.
There was a woman who worked for the White Star Line. Her name was Violet Jessup. And Violet Jessup was on the Olympic, sister ship to Titanic. And the Olympic had a little bit of an incident, nothing too disastrous, but it was before Titanic launched or anything, and it was just a little problem. But they had to offload everybody and get it fixed. And she was on that ship, and it was fine. And she was fine, and it was fine. And then she was on Titanic. And Titanic strikes an iceberg and goes down. And she manages to survive that, gets away. We're all good. Then she gets on Britannic. And Britannic hits a ship. I think it was a ship. It hit something and was sinking. And she had to get saved. And she got saved. So basically, the moral of the story is if there's someone on board your ship named Violet Jessup, get off the ship.
It's like the unsinkable Molly Brown, but it's Violet. It's another one, right?
Violet Jessup, 3 ships that had problems, and she survived.
Okay.
Now, the first one wasn't that big a deal, but the other 2 were doozies.
Wow.
I'm surprised they didn't hang her for witchcraft.
I'm surprised she got back on a ship.
Yeah.
After
Like, I'm not.
You must have said it's not me.
Okay,
think that the trauma would keep her off the ship.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe no one put it together until they looked at her service record later.
But even in her mind, what do you do after that? Like the third one?
I don't know. Like, I guess what the thing to do, the responsible thing to do would be to look at ship incidents reports for all of the steamer lines at that time and find out if bumps and bruises requiring offloading of passengers and crew was really all that common.
It's just so crazy to me. Okay. So I don't know. I don't think I'm going to book Violet Jessup. I don't know. What about you guys? Should we talk about whether or not we'd book her? What do you think?
It would be like a series of unfortunate events.
Yeah, true. It could be. Jennifer, what about you? We booking her?
I don't know. It's kind of really cool, but it's also like, what are you doing, Violet? Stay put wherever your ship has landed and don't get back on another. I mean, the first one you'd be like, oh, that was a fluke. But after 2, what are you doing? But she's also kind of sounds cool. I'm
like, what do you do with it?
Yeah. I don't know what kind of story. Do you write her story where I don't know.
What do you think, Julie? What would you do?
Well, I think I would book it. It's kind of super interesting. And it would be called Violet Jessup, a woman of courage, determination, and extremely bad luck, and maybe a witch.
There you go.
It's a short title.
Very short. Yeah. Quick. Sellable.
But there could be so many, I don't know. That's so interesting. And the fact that she keeps going and going, I don't know. You know, was she hesitant to climb the ramp that first time? I don't know.
She was unemployable on land.
She was super attracted to sailors. We just don't know.
I mean, like such huge disaster. She she needed some therapy.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure she had PTSD right after the Titanic, especially. What kind of horror they had to go through on that one.
And survivor guilt, and who knows.
I don't know. Heather, what about you?
I think I would book it just in the sense that it would be fun to read about, like interesting to read about, like her whole life as a whole. You know, maybe it could be a story or whatever, but I also think she probably just always packed her own life jacket, is what I'm assuming.
She has an inflatable little raft that
Right. She has her own raft. She's like, I'm good.
When the Titanic starts going down, she's like, don't worry, I got this.
There's a white star, and that's why she goes, no, I'm going to keep getting on these ships because I've got shares in this company. It's got to work out.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, that's funny.
Well, we have some nice comments. Lori says, Beck, you did such a good job conveying the hurt and horror and effort the crew went through to save as many as they could. So that was really nice of you. A lot of people comment. Tia would say she totally book it for the comedy of Violet. And then maybe Maria says maybe she did the third ship to get past her own fears after the Titanic. So and then disaster, like it totally failed. Anyway, very interesting. I think we could talk about little quirky Titanic or Carpathia details all day. But we do have to conclude. We can't stay here forever, unfortunately. But for those of you tuning in, we are called Fiction in Real Life. We take submissions by email of your fiction in real life kind of stories, things that are stranger than fiction that you think are almost too hard to believe, but they're true. And we share them. And when we do, we send little stickers or prizes to you. And a big thank you for sharing. If you have a submission like that, feel free to email us anytime. We go through them. If we haven't got to yours yet, we're still just waiting for the right subject heading to plot it under, and we'll get to it if it fits the show. So we would love to see you in 2 weeks. And we'll talk about our next subject, which we will reveal soon. And so anyway, I'm fumbling through this ending. I haven't done it in a while. Anyway, see you next time on Fiction
in
Real
Life.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Thanks, Rebecca, for coming. Have fun in London.
Thank you.
Eat lots of chocolate.